So again, welcome back, Realty Pros. We're talking about preparing for listing appointments today. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of our discussion today, I just want to poll you guys and see what your thoughts are. What things do you need to do or have prepared before you ever go into your listing appointment?
You didn't want to run a CMA.
Yep.
That's very important. So you know the actual numbers, the data, what's going on in that neighborhood, what homes are selling for, how fast they sold or not, how long they've sat on the market. So a real good CMA.
Definitely. So for what else?
Well, I mean,
what else do you need to prepare before you go for a listing appointment?
The actual listing, the listing appointment package that we have with Porterhouse. So, you know, making sure that if you're going to add any information to it specifically for that potential seller, that you've updated, you know, the listing presentation.
Excellent. All right, that's 2 points for Curtis. Anybody else want to jump in and take a guess? What else do you need to prepare?
Well, I don't know if it's really preparing it, but you need to pull the tax records of the property.
Definitely. What information are you going to find on that tax record that's pertinent to your listing?
Oh. Was somebody else getting ready to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, who owns it? Who actually owns the property?
Absolutely. And
that's
if there
most
are
important.
and if there are any liens or encumbrances on the property?
That's a really good guess. That goes a little bit further than what we actually have access to. That's one of the things that the title company is going to pull, but that is definitely crucial in the listing process. But who owns the property? And you definitely want to verify that before you ever go on a listing appointment. Okay, is there anything else that we want to prepare? All right, then let me ask this question. In order to prepare your CMA, and I heard you say the listing packet / listing presentation, Curtis. What do you mean when you say the listing packet? What are you speaking about in particular?
The actual listing presentation.
Okay, definitely the listing presentation. There are only two things that I haven't heard. And both of you guys know these things. Actually, all of you guys know these things.
Must be sitting in.
All right.
Brooklyn.
I bet you it's something really simple that we're just not thinking.
It is. It is. All of you know it. That's why I'm asking.
It's probably something that's in Brooklyn or that's something that you've probably told us 100 times.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you effectively take the listing? What do you need to have signed?
Your agreement.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, broker agreement. There you go. Okay.
Listing agreement.
Your exclusive right to sell. There you go. That is the primary objective, to get that listing agreement signed, definitely. So you guys said everything else. There was only one thing that we were talking about, I want to say last week with Glennis. And this is something that we want to have a conversation with the seller about also. Was there anybody with us last week when Glennis was sharing? If so, would you tell us what else that is that we need?
Well, I wasn't on it last week, but I'm just kind of taking a guess. The disclosures of the property.
That's a great guess. That's going to be included in your listing document.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great guess. You definitely need to have your property disclosures. Now, this question that I'm asking, this is going to pertain to the seller's bottom line. This is what the seller really wants to hear. This is what they want to know about.
The net sheet.
You got it. The seller wants you to tell them the dollars and cents. They want you to show them the money. You're doing a comparative market analysis, so it's to be able to give them a realistic view of what monies they're going to be walking from the table with. So you guys have guessed everything that we need to do in order to prepare for a successful listing appointment, okay? So we're going to go ahead over to, first we're going to go to, let's see, let me share my screen and go to the tax record. Because one of the things that you said, Curtis, is that we have to view the tax record or the public record to make sure that that seller actually has legal rights to sell the property. Because you will find instances in which the person who's signing off on those listing documents, they're actually not the legal seller for the property on the actual tax record. So then what we'll have to do is kind of backpedal in a sense to, you know, make sure that they're legally entitled to sell. And that person could be an heir, that person could be an administrator or an executor of the estate. That person could be, you know, whether they be a trustee, or the person could be an investor who's purchased the property, but maybe it's not yet recorded. So it is very important when we're looking at a property, and I just pulled up a random address, that we actually go to the tax record when we're preparing our listing document to verify certain information. So if you're having a conversation on the phone and somebody's name is Patty, their last name is Patty Winters, you need to be looking for someone named Pearl Washington Pinckney. And if not that person, we've got to have a direct connection between those people, either some type of power of attorney, some letters of administration, or something that says that the person who is hiring you to sell the property has legal rights to convey that property. Okay, so this is our background preliminary information before we ever get to our seller. All right, now on this tax record also, there's information that you're going to need for your listing document. So you have your lot here, you have your block here, you have other information, because the street address on its own is not most sufficient. Over time, street names have changed, and you want to make sure that they can locate this exact property. So you're going to put as much information as possible in your listing document, right? Next, in Prince George's County, there's a such thing in various places as a special tax. Like you said, Rhonda, we have to include the disclosures. There is an addenda in those disclosures that's called a special taxing district for Prince George's County. So this is where you're going to find that information if the seller is unaware of whether or not they have a special tax, because in Prince George's County, that has to be disclosed. All right. Now, on this information too, you're going to see some info that you will verify with the seller, like the number of bathrooms, bedrooms, square footage, and all that good stuff. You get your kind of roundabout information from the tax record, but you're going to verify that with the seller, because quite often the tax record is incomplete in these building characteristics. There are very many sellers who've done updates and upgrades that haven't been added to their tax record. So you always want to verify this with the seller, okay? So that's pulling your public record. So then now let's go ahead over to Dotloop. Now, the information that we're gathering on this listing intake form, this is the information that we need in advance. That way we can prepare a comparative market analysis, and that way we can properly prepare the listing document. So we're asking all of the information. We even need this in order to know what type of sale it is. We need to know whether or not this is going to be a standard sale or whether or not it's going to be a short sale. It looks as if my screen may have stopped sharing with you guys. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So on this listing intake form, even when you're asking your seller the balance of their mortgage, this is information you need in advance of ever meeting with them, because if the comps that you do show that the property is worth $550 and the seller's mortgage is for $625, what type of sale is that?
Conventional.
Let me rephrase that, my apologies. If the market value of the property is only 550, but the seller owes 625 on it, then what type of sale is that?
Short.
Yep, you got it. So that's a different process for the seller. So you need to ask these questions in advance. And this is just on the intake. This is in the conversation with the seller so that you can begin doing those listing documents. And that's how you know, hey, is this a short sale? Is this a standard sale? Is my seller behind on their mortgage? Are they getting bank notices? Like, is this a distress sale where we need to, you know, hurry up and get them out of the property within the next 30 days? This is where you're going to start putting that information in. And bedroom, bathroom, fireplace, and all of the amenities and upgrades to the property. You want to get as much detail as possible, because when you look at your comparative market analysis, you're going to always see a range. You're going to see low, median, and high sales prices. And the information contained here is going to tell you how to value that property based on all of these features, amenities, upgrades, and updates and the like, so that you can make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. All right. And also you're asking in advance if there's a HOA or if there's a condo association. If so, you get that property management information, contact person number, what the fee and frequency is in advance. You want to find out if they're current. All of this information you want to know in advance, and it will truly help you as the listing agent to have that information on hand. Okay, then anything else about the listing that your seller wants you to know, maybe features that they want to highlight. You're going to put all of that information here so that you can actually prepare a comparative market analysis and the rest of these listed documents that are going to follow. All right, I'm going to breeze through some of these pages because we're very familiar with them and we've gone over them a number of times. I will just touch on them. So this understanding whom agents represent, we need for every transaction. When you're the listing agent, you're simply making sure it says the sellers, it lists your firm name, yourself as the listing agent, and then it says the seller in that second box also. Being sure not to sign this bottom line unless your seller is unable or unwilling to sign off on this document. Okay, consent for dual agency, you're signing off on, you're having your seller to sign off on this document to give Porterhouse and Porterhouse's agent the opportunity to find a buyer for the property. Without this consent for dual agency, Porterhouse and our agents are not even allowed to show that property. Okay, so you're just making sure that you're.
Excuse me, Jasmine, are you sharing your screen? Because I can't see anything.
Thank you for letting me know that. I am sharing my screen. I thought I was at least. Let me go back and make sure. And thanks so much. If that happens again, let me know right away so that I can reshare that. All right, let's see. Can you guys see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's the consent for dual agency. Very quick and easy for that document. In the beginning, your seller is only signing at the top, not below the affirmation of prior consent to dual agency. Can anybody tell me when the seller needs to sign below this line?
When they don't consent.
Anybody else want to guess?
That would have been my answer as well.
Okay, so it's a little bit different. This below the line is affirmation of prior consent. What this document is doing, this document is giving Porterhouse and Porterhouse's agents the ability to be able to show and sell that property. Now, if an agent that's represented by Porterhouse or an agent under Porterhouse actually has a buyer that's interested in purchasing, now you've got to come back to the seller and redisclose. So that bottom line is when you're saying, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, we know that you gave us permission to sell the property. Although we're listing the property also, here is the specific buyer's name. This buyer is represented by Porterhouse, just like you're represented by Porterhouse. Now you both sign below that line to say, okay, we're giving consent. We're affirming that both parties to the transaction are represented by the same brokerage.
Right, okay.
Okay. Now, if you're on a team, that's when you need the notification of dual agency within a team. If you're not on a team, then you don't need that particular document. I'm going to pause. Hold on. So if you are on a team, that's when you need the notification of dual agency within a team. Otherwise, this document's not required. Now, let's talk a little bit about your exclusive rights to sell residential brokerage agreement. This document is the single most important document that you need in this whole file because it's what gives you the right to be the listing agent and sell this property exclusively. There are various types of residential brokerage agreements. This is the one that ensures that you get paid no matter who sells the property, so that you won't expend all of your time, energy, effort, and money, and then somebody else sells it and then you don't earn a commission. So it's very important that you get this document signed. This is the only residential brokerage agreement that we accept at Porterhouse, okay? Other places, they accept open listings where there are multiple listing agents, but that's not how we work here. We want to make sure that your client is properly represented and your commission is secured. All right. So in this document,
your screen stopped again.
I don't know what's going on with this thing.
Now it's back.
Okay. I think it must be the network. We're on the 5G network and this thing is doing something crazy in here.
It's back now.
Thank you guys for your patience.
I think it's rebooting when you scroll up.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your patience. I'll keep running on through it, and if it stops again, we're going to continue the discussion without it. All right? So your listing, your terms of termination, we know that everything else in here is crucial. You want to make sure that this is completed. This is just a sample. So when you complete this, you want to make sure that the mailing address, telephone number, and everything that you need is appropriately filled in there. Your listing term, you want to make sure that you have a listing term that's a year. You start out with a year, no big deal. If your seller reduces it, that's a conversation between the two of you, but give yourself time and your seller's time. Your terms of termination, you want to make sure that all of your agreements say that it needs to be a mutual agreement in writing signed by both parties. That way, if you've spent 4 or 5 months working on a listing, the seller can't just go with another agent without you knowing. So it needs to be a mutual agreement signed by both parties. You need to include that listing price and whatever your showing instructions are. And sometimes the seller will say, hey, I don't want the property to be active for another 3 weeks. That's information that you want to include there, okay? I see that it has gone out again, so we're going to continue without it, okay? So that's information that you want to make sure is included in your listing document. Now, let's just talk a little bit about the process when you're listing the property. Tell me some of the things that you need to do in order to help your seller to get it ready to market.
Oh, I mean, walk the property with them, maybe point out, areas of, improvement or, how them cleaning up their house or, kind of letting them know that, we're looking to have people coming through. So, we want to make it look as good as we can. Set up the appointment for the photographer. So letting them know that we have a professional photographer that'll come in. So we want the house to look as spectacular as we can.
Definitely. Anything else?
And I'm not really sure if he said this part, but fixing anything that needs to be fixed, ordering the sign. Outside of, what the gentleman said, Curtis, outside of what Curtis said, as far as just everything, as far as cleaning the house, fixing up any issues that could be an eyesore, putting away unnecessary items, because I know a lot of people have things like on their countertops, whereas if they don't really, you kind of use it when you need it and put it away.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say, to let them know if there are items that, you would want to have improved, if they don't want to improve them, just say financially they don't have the money, or, they just don't feel like messing with it, just to point out to them that, this can come back. So if the buyer is doing a home inspection, don't be surprised if they're like, look, you need, this, and this needs to be fixed. We can credit them, so again, there's no money coming out of your pocket to fix the handrail, but it will be more than likely cited. So just kind of prepping them for that home inspection pushback, so they're not, oh my gosh, what do you mean? No, remember, I told you have to fix the handrail, or more than likely, they're going to want some money.
That's excellent. You definitely need to set the seller's expectations. And I was hoping that somebody would say that. That is a very big part of the process for you as the listing agent. And when you go through that listing consultation, that's what that is doing. It's educating your seller. It's setting the expectation. I'm echoing. Somebody, let's see. You need somebody. Okay, let's try that again. Is that better? So you want to set your seller's expectations. So just like Curtis said, when they get that home inspection, they know exactly what to anticipate. They know that the buyer may ask for repairs, even if you sell it as is. Sometimes a buyer will come back and ask for repairs. So your seller has options. They can agree to fix nothing, something, everything, give a credit or release or whatever it is that the buyer and the seller agree to, but they need to know those things in advance, so that they're not surprised when it comes up. So that's setting the expectation in terms of the inspection. Is there anything else that you need to set their expectation in terms of?
Well, one thing that I actually just recently did was they may have to, I give them the expectation of, don't be surprised if you have to spend a little bit more money, if you have to hire someone to repair anything. You can't go get Pookie and them to fix anything. You have to actually have a licensed contractor.
That is a very good point to make. And that is a part of our listing agreement. They must have a licensed contractor. Now, let me ask this question along those lines. Is there any resource that we provide to our sellers as a brokerage that provides or helps them with those repairs?
Well, we can suggest a place or a person, but if we do that, we have to make sure we give them at least 3. And we also have to make sure we've checked. Now, I'm not really sure if we check this or, I think we check to make sure that person is in good standing within the past year.
So that's a very good answer. And that's what we have to do for anybody that we refer to our clients within the transaction. There's something specific that we provide as a brokerage that can actually help cover all of those areas. And it's something that covers the property. It's something that can help them with repairs. It's something that can transfer to the buyer and can save the seller a really big headache and expenses.
The home warranty from HWA?
Yes. So we're partnered with HWA, and through our partnership, they give all of our sellers a free home warranty. Okay. So there's no cost to the sellers until settlement, and either the buyer or the seller can pay at settlement. They're allowed, however, to use it as if it was fully paid throughout the listing time. So if they're listed with you, they get up to 6 months worth of usage on the home warranty that they haven't paid for. Now, that can be a tremendous deal, because if you have a buyer that's asked for 12 items and 10 of them are covered under the home warranty, that's going to save your seller potentially thousands of dollars. So that's something that we want to make sure that we make sure that all of our sellers are covered. And then even when we're working with buyers, you want to make sure that they're covered, because inevitably things are going to come back. And you would rather the buyer, you know, the new homeowner be able to go through the home warranty than coming after your seller.
So
Okay.
question on the
Now,
on the home warranty, that's only on the buyer side, or is that something, let's just say if the seller needs to repair some things now, can they utilize it now or no?
that's a great question, and they can utilize it from the day that they're listed with any Porterhouse agent until the day that they go to settlement. So if they sign that agreement with you today, they can use it now. If they sign that agreement with you tomorrow, they can use it then.
Okay. So I'll have to
And just
talk
to
to
give you
you
guys, okay,
outside of this call, because now I do have a question about that
okay.
in reference to my
But
current
that's
listing.
one of the benefits. You got it.
Okay.
That's one of the benefits. Your seller can use it now. And I'll give you guys just a quick kind of testimonial in that we had a seller. As soon as you take the listing, that's one of the things on your checklist that's in BrokerMint. You want to sign them up for their home warranty. And this seller, her microwave was on the fritz. The property is only 3 years young. The microwave, there's some type of manufacturer's defect. And instead of her having to replace the microwave, she simply called HWA, and she called them and they paid to have it repaired. And because she found a repairman more quickly than they were able to find somebody, they paid her for the repairman. So they just gave her her money back. So we had another client who was having an issue with the AC. They sent somebody out to repair the AC. And in the meantime, they gave them money to go and buy a window unit. And if they didn't want the window unit, they would have paid for their hotel stay up to like 3 nights or something while it was being repaired. So there are quite a number of features and benefits that we get, you know, just through making sure that our clients are covered. And that's the main thing, just making sure that they're taken care of and we can take as much stress off of their plates as possible. Okay, so we talked about inspections, we talked about repairs from the inspection. Is there anything else that we need to prepare our clients for in terms of setting that expectation?
Listing appointments, how they would want to let the property show. In this market, we are looking at multiple offers. So, the more that we can show, the greater potential we have for multiple offers. So, clarifying is it open all day, or do you have certain time, restrictions, stuff like that?
That's a conversation you definitely want to have. Access. What are the showing windows there? Definitely. And with the market that we have, do we want to encourage them to allow more showings, less showing, a moderate amount? What's in their best interest?
More showing.
You got it.
And I was
exposure.
And I was going to add to that open house.
Yes. Okay. So the name of the game is maximizing the exposure to the property. And by maximizing the exposure, of course, we're pushing it on all of the online platforms. So the MLS and all of the partnering or the sister websites is out there on over 35 different websites when we push the property out. But also the property showings, like Curtis said, and your open houses, because all of those things, as we know, that brings more interest to the property. And the more exposure you give it, the more interest, the more buyers are ready to compete for it. And that should then equate to offers and or multiple offers for your seller. So those are conversations you definitely want to have with your seller in advance, because people right offhand are not going to be excited by, allowing for an amount of time for people to come in and out of their houses. And that's why this is the information that we want to share with them in advance, so that you set that expectation. It's for their own good. It's for, a higher and the best offer. All right, is there anything else we need to talk to the seller about?
I'd say important conversation piece is it would go into the net sheet, but how much money setting their expectations on the sale price, the actual dollar amount. You may think that it's worth 700,000, but it's not. it might be, or it could be 800. So just setting the expectation
Yeah.
of, the price, what we can expect to get for the purchase.
You got it. So let me ask a question. You said something about the net sheet in just Maryland, in our area. What is the average sales expense for a seller in terms of percentages? It's an average range.
I would say, I believe would that be the 11%?
Yep, between 8 and 11%. Yep, and that's 11 if the buyer needs closing costs. And if the buyer doesn't need closing costs, then it goes down from there.
Right.
So those are expectations that we want to set in advance. So we have that conversation with our seller, and it's very important for the sellers to know, hey, you're selling the home, but it's not that the entire gross will be your proceeds. They're selling expenses, and here's what they are. And that's how you kind of go into your seller net sheet. And it's normally going to be between 8 and 11%, depending on whether or not that buyer is asking for closing costs. But that's very important for your sellers to understand. And they may not be excited that they have to pay selling expenses, but it's the way of the world. When buyers are buying their closing costs, when sellers are selling their closing costs. But we want to make sure that we have those conversations with them in advance. Okay? Is there anything else that we need to talk to our sellers about?
I'd say most importantly, the commission.
Oh, definitely. That's included in their selling expenses. Definitely. And that's included in your exclusive rights to sell. Because you work hard. You work very hard for your commission. You work very long hours, and you do whatever is necessary to make sure that property goes to settlement for your client, and you earn your commission. So just like any other professional, whether it be an attorney or whether it be a doctor or whomever, you earn your commission and you negotiate that commission up front, and that's what you're paid. Okay. What about appraisals, and what about lender required repairs that come from appraisals? Is that something that we need to talk to the seller about?
Absolutely.
Definitely. So how are the repairs that are requested from an appraiser different than those from the inspector or the buyer?
I'm sorry, ask the question again.
Sure. So let me rephrase it and make sure it's clear for you guys. If an appraiser is asking for repairs, or if he or she has cited repairs, those are called lender required repairs. How are those different than the repairs that a buyer may request based on a home inspection?
Well, can the house actually be sold if the appraiser suggested, and I'm kind of guessing at this point, could the house be sold if they suggest it and the person can't? Because I'm imagining that if the appraisal is requesting these repairs, it could be things that are dangerous, for the house. So I'm just kind of guessing along those lines.
Yeah.
Those are some very good guesses. Would anybody like to add to that?
Yeah. So at the point of the lender required repairs, we would have already moved past the home inspection contingencies. So the home inspection contingencies would have already been met. And then the lender required repairs, the lender isn't going to approve the loan if A, B, C, and D things aren't repaired. So it halts the settlement. So you have to basically get everything fixed, let the buyer know the lender required repairs have been made. The appraiser is going to come back out to make sure that yes, those things were fixed, and then it's kind of like greenlit to now go towards settlement, or it will now approve the loan. And sometimes I had a listing that this happened to, and the lender required repairs were literally $300, $400 worth of work. It was so pointless, but the appraiser has to justify his or her job, you know, but it held up the settlement, you know, because now I had to, you know, the seller had to find a contractor, licensed contractor, come out, you know, do these real minor repairs. Okay, they're fixed. We took pictures, sent them over to the buying agent, hurry up and get the appraiser back out. They came out, they were happy, and then it moved along to, you know, to closing. So it doesn't always really mean it'll be a big deal, you know, like something major, a whole roof. I mean, in my case, it was literally $500 worth of, and that's on the high end. It was probably, you know, yeah, like $400 worth of work that jammed up settlement. but it, you know, everything happened.
That's good. You guys ended up closing. That's what we do. We find a way to make the deal close for our client.
Yes.
But definitely, all of those are reasons that you want to have that conversation with the seller in advance. All right. Is there anything else that we need to have a conversation with the seller about?
Well, just to piggyback on the lender required repairs, that's also why, you know, we can let them know if we do have multiple offers. You know, you could have an offer that is a VA loan or an offer that's conventional. And that's also why, you know, that's the conventional might be a better offer to go with, because the VA, if it's a VA loan and they need these lender required repairs, you know, it ain't going to be 30 days. You know what I mean? It can,
you got it,
jam up, you know, selling it faster.
Elaborate on that, Curtis, because you said something very important, and I don't want to take for granted that everybody knows what you're talking about. So the difference between an appraisal with conventional versus the other loan types as it pertains to the inspections, like the required repairs.
Well, the conventional loan is that vehicle of a loan. They won't have lender required repairs, but a VA loan, they can, you know, they can actually request that in order for this VA loan to be, you know, to be approved, you have to fix these things. So that's kind of why, you know, if you have two offers in hand, which in that situation I was in, I wish that we didn't accept the offer we did, because literally the next day we got a really good conventional offer, but we already accepted this one, you know. So the conventional loan, you know, just what it will require. Now you still might have the inspection, the home inspection, you know, that you still might have to do something, but for the lender required repairs, you won't have that like a VA loan. Or even, can they do that with FHA loans as well?
So that was a very good point. And FHA, so conventional, the buyer is not required to have an inspection. Conventional, the buyer doesn't have to have a property inspection at all. FHA, it is requested and required. So if the buyer says they're not going to do it, they're going against FHA's recommendations for them. VA, the same thing. So just like you're saying with those other loan types, it's going to be a little bit more strenuous on the seller's part, because those inspections by the appraiser are then made lender required repairs. Whereas on a conventional loan, you're not going to have those type of lender required repairs, because they don't even have to have an inspection to begin with. So the property needs to appraise at value, but it doesn't have to be inspected in that type of way. So it's a little bit more relaxed with some of the other, you know, with the conventional loan product. So very good point to make. So all of these and more are conversations that we need to have with our seller up front. Just to recap, we've talked about a number of things that we need to do in order to prepare for our listing appointment. And as we begin to close, would anybody help me to reiterate those things? I'll start us off. We said that we needed to prepare our listing intake form so that we could gather information. We said that we needed to prepare, what else?
Our CMA.
That's right.
We had to look at the tax records to make sure that the owner owns it.
That's right.
The exclusive right to sell.
That's right. Those listing documents are most important.
Net sheet.
Your property disclosure. That's right. Your net sheet. Rhonda said the property disclosures and all of the addenda. And then one final thing. Your actual listing presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the things that you need to just go through. And it sounds like a lot, but most of them actually flow in together. So your intake is on the exact same template as your listing documents, the exact same template as your actual disclosure. So that's all in one. Okay. So it's going to be a lot more seamless than you think. Your listing presentation is already prepared for you by Porterhouse. You get it through the brokerage. You just insert your information so that you make it property specific. In your comparative market analysis, you can easily pull up whether it be on Bright MLS or whether you do it on HomeSnap, Remind, however you choose to do your CMA. All right. So we're going to go into greater detail the next time. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and close us out unless anybody has any questions, comments, concerns with any of those areas.
I have a question, actually.
Okay.
So the exclusive right to sell and all of our, binding documents for the listing presentation. If we were doing, like, say, a door knock for a potential short sale, bringing the documents with us, would I bring the exclusive right to sell agreement, hoping that I door knock and I can get them to sign, me as their listing agent? Would you fill out the exclusive right, like, with, because their name, would you fill all that out prior to and then print it out and then just bring that, so all those other fields are kind of set, you know what I mean? It's all typed out and then they just need to sign? Or would you just bring a blank exclusive right document, maybe have certain things already filled out, the Porterhouse address, the things that we require?
That's exactly what I would do. I would do that. So it would be a hybrid of the things that you said. You print it out and everything that's going to be standard, you make sure that that's typewritten nice and neatly so that you present it to the seller, and then their property specific information, you leave that so that you can fill it in on the spot. Now, unless you know for sure that when you go door knock, that person's going to list with you.
Right. Okay.
But that's what I would do.
And would you need to bring the exclusive right and the understanding whom and the dual agency at that same time, or could you just get them to agree with the exclusive right and then you go in to dot loop later that day, or you set everything up, you send them so they can e-sign it? I guess what is the most important, like coming with the exclusive right is like, the big joker. Like that's what you really need. But do you have to bring, so I'm not printing out all this stuff and then you're sitting there, nobody answered the door, and it's like, yeah, I got John Doe on here, I'm going to throw it away because John Doe, so just like, I guess I'm just trying what do I meat and taters, what do I need to have in my file, my folder? So it's like, let's go, sign off. And then I got some other documents coming over and we'll get everything rolling.
Those are excellent questions. And I'm glad you asked so that everybody can know. Your understanding whom agents represent has to be signed at the first face-to-face visit. So you want to take that with you everywhere you go, as well as your consent for dual agency. Those, along with your exclusive rights to sell brokerage agreement, those are the ones that you can get signed on the spot. And all of the other disclosures and addenda you can get the seller to sign off on, should you need to come back to the office after you get the listing.
Right.
So of course, you're going to need to have those disclosures because they're legal documents that we have to have, the disclosure or disclaimer. But if you're just getting it signed on the spot, your agency disclosures and your listing agreement document itself.
Okay. Yeah,
And that was a very good question.
I did my first door knock for the short sale campaign.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it was pretty. It was like a couple, not Saturday before last. So I went around. I had 5 houses in Laurel to go to, and it was D-Day. So I was like, I'll be in your neighborhood around 3 o'clock. And I think some people actually left the house. But I did actually speak to one lady, which was cool, because then she was looking at me like, who are you? And I was like, I have everything in purple envelopes to make sure it just stands out. And then I was like, I've been sending you the purple envelopes. She was like, I got the bracelet for the clock.
Great.
Yeah. So I just need to follow up, but it felt good knowing like, okay, you did get the mail. I have been mailing, the stuff, all this like, basically 6 pieces. I have like 3 postcards and then the 3 envelopes, the 3 letters, so yes, but I wasn't sure.
And then the door knock makes 7. Good job.
Exactly. And I have my door hanger is the 7th. So, if they're not there,
okay,
like a mini CMA, just like one page, like I think it's page 3, 5, and then the last page of the CMA. So just to put that, and then I have the door hanger. And so I just left that at the houses that didn't answer. And yeah, but I was wondering about the documents, like, well, what could I have, what do I need to have on hand so that if they are like, oh yeah, I'm interested, you're the guy, like, yeah, let's sign these and let's get rocking and rolling.
There you go.
Okay.
This makes me overjoyed, guys. Curtis is doing exactly what he's learning. I love to see that. Keep going.
Yeah. So.
Keep going. I'm very excited. You're going to have some success stories to come back and share.
Yeah.
I'm confident you will.
Some of the houses look like they needed to sell. Like they need help because it's pretty. 2 of them were hoarder centrals. The TV show.
Well, you'll be there to help them.
There you go. Exactly.
You got it. Well, you guys are the best. That was a great discussion, great dialogue, great questions, great insight. Thank you guys for thinking it through. I just appreciate being able to ask you those questions and have you think about the answers yourselves instead of just giving it all to you, because you guys know more than you think you know. So we give the information and I just like to see it stick. So great contribution to the discussion today. It is a couple minutes after 1:30. So I want to make sure that we honor your time and let you guys off. So if anybody needs to leave, I'm going to go ahead and stop the discussion so that you can leave, and we'll pick up next Thursday. But if anybody wants to stay and has any other questions or comments or concerns, I'll hang on for a few minutes, okay? All right. Until
Have
next
a good
week.
one, everyone. All right.
You too, and happy birthday.
Thank you. Well,